Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take your sources, your articles, your research, your notes, and turn them into the specific knowledge you need.
And today, we are tackling a big one.
Yeah, one of the biggest paradoxes in professional life, really. We're talking about leadership. And we're starting with a question that's a little unsettling right out of the gate.
It's the kind of question that should make everyone just sort of look around their office or even their family room right now.
Okay, what is it?
What if the most influential leader in your organization, your community, your family, what if that person isn't the one with the C-suite title?
Not the one with the dedicated parking spot.
Exactly. Not the person with the big public platform. What if it's the person quietly shaping decisions, values, and, the real direction of things?
Yeah.
Often without any formal authority at all.
That thought alone just completely challenges the traditional trap we've all fallen into for decades.
It really does. I mean, we've been conditioned to see leadership as a reward for achievement.
Yeah.
You climb the ladder, you get the credentials, you get the promotion.
And then the influence is just supposed to magically appear. We think the title signals importance, that a promotion automatically equals impact.
But what we see in the sources, and frankly in real life, is that this model, it's just so fragile. It relies almost entirely on that positional authority.
And it gets undermined so easily because it's built on that external thing, the title, not on any real internal foundation.
That's it. We end up elevating people way faster than their character is formed. We start rewarding visibility over, actual virtue.
And that leads to leadership that's driven by ego, sustained by fear, and is just completely misaligned with what the organization is actually trying to do.
So the core problem isn't that we don't have enough people in charge.
No, it's that we've completely misunderstood what the job is. We've mistaken position for influence. We've mistaken authority for impact.
When the deeper truth, the one our sources keep pointing to, is that leadership doesn't begin when someone is placed over other people.
It begins when someone chooses to serve others faithfully, right where they already are.
Exactly. And that distinction service where you are versus command from on high, that is the whole mission of this deep dive.
We want to uncover that more durable, more effective framework, one that focuses on influence that you cultivate through character, through obedience, through service.
And it's a framework that's accessible to you right now, no matter what your business card says.
Okay, that idea of faithfulness over a platform is, it's really powerful. But let's be real for a second. In the modern office, people still look at the org chart.
Of course.
So what happens when that positional authority runs head-on into the deep skepticism and volatility we see everywhere today?
It just crumbles. It really does. We're in an era where people are, I think, increasingly resistant to just arbitrary positional authority. They don't first ask, who signed off on this?
No, they ask, who can I trust?
That's the pivot point. Who can be trusted? And when a leader is relying only on their title, their authority is suddenly not enough. It's often totally ineffective.
And the sources show that this reliance on rank, it just corrodes trust. People might follow, but they do it reluctantly. You get disengagement, not inspiration.
Think about it. A leader who only has their title is fragile. They need the whole system, the whole structure to enforce their decisions.
But a leader of authentic influence, someone who's built on trust and character.
They don't need the title to compel action. They just inspire commitment.
And this is the part that your notes really emphasize, which I found fascinating.
Yeah.
Most professionals are already leading, long before they're officially recognized for it.
Yes.
You're shaping decisions every day through that informal influence. You're modeling values by, how you handle stress or how you treat the new intern. You're setting the emotional tone for your entire team just by showing up.
That is the great untapped potential right there. Because we frame leadership as a role, something you get promoted into, all that existing non-title influence, it just goes completely unexamined, undeveloped.
I see this all the time. A manager sends one of those 10 p.m. panic emails. But the most influential person on that team might be the one who doesn't forward it, who comes in the next morning and just calmly says, hey, everyone, this is still manageable. They just set the culture. No title required.
That's it exactly. The moment your life starts affecting others, as a mentor, as a role model, a standard setter leadership is active. It's happening in those small conversations, in your decision to hold the line on integrity.
So it's a total reframe. Leadership isn't some temporary role you hold. It's an enduring responsibility that's entrusted to your character.
And to really solidify this framework, we have to look at some of these historical patterns your sources point out because they really defy human expectation.
Okay.
What we see over and over in these texts is that true potential, let's call it a calling, is always prioritized over credentials. Influence is given before position, and character is always tested before any kind of authority is granted in public.
Let's spend some time on those case studies then, because they really show how counterintuitive this all is. We should start with the classic underdog, David.
Right. So when the prophet Samuel goes to anoint the next king, he looks at David's older brothers, the tall, impressive, qualified-looking guys.
The ones who look the part.
He assumes one of them has to be the one, but David is forgotten. He's out in a field, literally smelling of sheep, completely overlooked by his own family.
And the instruction to Samuel is, the Lord sees not as man sees. Man looks on the outward appearance, but the Lord looks on the heart.
And the sources make it clear David was already leading long before that anointing. The very qualities that would define his kingship. That vigilance, that courage, his willingness to put his life on the line.
All of that was formed in total obscurity, defending sheep from lions and bears.
Exactly. He was developing responsibility and skill far away from any public eye. So when he finally stands in front of Goliath, it's not some sudden act of bravery, it's a demonstration of character that was already forged in private.
That's such a powerful distinction. His character work came before his public career, which is the complete opposite of how we structure promotions today.
Then you look at Joseph. His path to leading an entire nation was not a corporate fast track.
Not at all. It was slavery, betrayal, unjust imprisonment.
He spent years in what you could call hidden faithfulness, managing Potiphar's household, then managing the entire prison.
And his influence grew, not because he got a title or money, but because he maintained this absolute integrity and wisdom in the worst possible circumstances.
That's the crucible. His story shows that leadership is forged in adversity, not in celebration. The wisdom he later used to save a nation was developed while he was faithfully serving as a slave when he had every excuse to be bitter.
His character was trusted long before his executive ability was ever recognized.
And our third example, Moses, might be the hardest one for us to digest because he didn't even want the job.
He was full of excuses. He was called from humility, from reluctance. He was keenly aware of his limitations as a speaker.
It completely flips the script on the idea that a leader has to be the loudest or the most confident person in the room. Moses' story shows that leadership is often just a matter of obedience, of aligning yourself with a bigger purpose, even when it's way outside your comfort zone.
So if we stitch all of these together, the key takeaway for you, the listener, is just critical.
It is. Influence is given before position.
Character is tested before visibility.
And leadership is measured by faithfulness and lasting impact, not by status, not by charisma, not by accolades.
It totally reframes who we should be looking up to and who you already are. Which brings us directly to the true currency of leadership that lasts. And it's clearly not about quarterly earnings or market share, as important as those things might be.
No, it all comes down to character and service.
So let's unpack that. Your sources introduce this concept of leadership as stewardship, not ownership.
Right. You don't own the people or the resources under your care. You are entrusted with them. Leadership isn't a trophy for being competent. It's a sacred responsibility to guide and nurture and protect.
And because stewardship is so central, influence becomes inseparable from character. We're talking integrity, humility, wisdom.
And that character isn't something you're born with. It's cultivated over a long time through thousands of consistent ethical choices.
Like, how does a leader treat the administrative staff? Or how do they respond when a huge project fails? Do they take the blame or do they point fingers?
That trustworthiness is what outlasts any title they could ever hold. Which leads us to this profound paradox of service, which the sources state so clearly in Mark 10. Whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant.
Greatness is measured by service, not by rank.
Okay, but that sounds great in a book, but in a really competitive company. If you're too busy washing feet, doing the grunt work, prioritizing people's emotional needs, you might miss the aggressive move you need to make to hit your numbers.
That's a fair question. How do you actually operationalize humility without just being seen as weak or passive?
That is the crucial challenge. But humility isn't weakness, it's a kind of grounded confidence. Operationalizing it means a leader is willing to listen to dissenting opinions,
To admit when they're wrong.
to give away credit freely. It's self-sacrificing. They prioritize the health of the team and the mission over their own personal status.
So the image of washing feet isn't about becoming a doormat.
Not at all. It's about being willing to do the necessary, unglamorous work that lifts other people up and clears obstacles from their path so they can succeed.
It completely redefines the power dynamic. Instead of power flowing down from a title, influence flows up from the service you provide.
And this is a direct challenge to ambition for its own sake. Ambition pursued purely for self-aggrandizement. If it's only about feeding your ego and chasing the next title, history shows that influence always crumbles.
Just look at King Saul and the sources.
His insecurity, his need for constant validation, it just poisoned his entire rule. True, durable leadership like David, showing patience, waiting for the right moment, it's rooted in obedience to a higher purpose. It's about prioritizing others over your own personal gain.
So if you're prioritizing that quiet, consistent faithfulness in the small things over just chasing the next promotion, you are building influence that's morally sound and ultimately sustainable. Okay, so let's bring all this home. What does this mean for you listening right now? I think the good news is leadership is already happening through you.
It absolutely is.
You're leading as a parent, shaping values, as a coach influencing a kid's confidence, as a colleague who models integrity under pressure. The only real question left is, are you leading intentionally?
And intentionality requires some practical tools. So the first tool we want you to use is something we'll call influence mapping.
Okay, what does that look like concretely?
You need to actually visually identify your true spheres of influence. So maybe you draw some concentric circles. The center is you. The first circle out might be your immediate family, your direct reports. The next one is maybe your work team or your community group. The outermost circle could be the broader organization or your local school board.
And then what?
Now, in those circles, you identify your non-title leadership roles.
So, for example, in my work circle, my non-title role is I'm the one who organizes the team retreat, or I'm the person who always volunteers to mentor the new hires.
Exactly. You don't get paid for that. It's not in your job description.
Right.
But you are setting the culture.
Right.
You're finding where your influence and your responsibility intersect. That's where your leadership is already active. And just recognizing that shifts your focus from waiting for a promotion to maximizing the impact you can have right now.
And the second tool, which is foundational to everything we've talked about, is the character audit.
Yes, we really can't emphasize this enough. Character is the true currency. So this is a deep dive into self-assessment.
You have to ask yourself the hard questions.
Yeah. Am I faithful in the small responsibilities? How do I respond when someone else gets the credit for my work? Do I communicate bad news with integrity, or do I hedge? Are my private choices reinforcing my public stance or undermining it?
This audit forces you to assess your readiness. Because influence grows from trust that's earned quietly, consistently.
Oh.
If you're not faithfully stewarding what you have now, your time, your money, your emotional energy, you're just not ready for more responsibility.
And finally, we have to talk about risk. Because leading intentionally means you have to step into uncharted territory sometimes.
It takes real courage to lead without that positional shield to hide behind.
It requires what we'd call faith-informed risk-taking. See, risk without hope just leads to recklessness. You're just throwing things at the wall.
And hope without risk just leads to stagnation. You just play defense all day.
Right. So hope, in this context, is trust in a greater purpose in God's faithfulness. It allows leaders to step beyond what's comfortable and familiar, like Peter stepping out of the boat. That underlying hope ensures the risk you're taking is responsible and transformative, not just reckless.
So you're leading with intention, based on character, and sustained by hope. That is influence that actually lasts.
This has been a really profound deep dive. I think the central conclusion, which is confirmed across all the sources, is undeniably clear.
Yeah.
Leadership is defined not by the title you hold or the applause you get, but by the tangible impact you create through character, through consistent service, and through quiet faithfulness.
A title is temporary, but influence that's rooted in service, that can be eternal. And you're already equipped to lead right where you are with exactly what you have.
So if you want to start building that kind of influence today, just begin by reviewing your daily actions, your commitments, and make sure they're rooted in service, not in the pursuit of status.
And here is the provocative thought we want to leave you with this week. If leadership is truly measured by the lives you touch and the influence you multiply, not by your visibility or the accolades you get, How would you redefine success in your own sphere this week?
Knowing that every small, faithful act you do can ripple out into eternity. The challenge is simple. Stop waiting for the position.
And start leading now. Find your hidden leadership. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.